Wounded Warrior Project empowers post 9/11 veterans and their families with life-changing programs and services.
They came to see me in the hospital, and they've been a constant in my life ever since.
We help warriors get the expert care to adjust back to civilian life.
I got the mental health support I needed to face my PTSD, and now I'm a much better husband and father because of it.
Together with a community of supporters, we make sure no warrior has to face their challenges alone.
I found adaptive sports and made connections. Now I know I can do anything I put my mind to.
Our hands-on programs, community support, and ongoing advocacy help veterans realize what's possible.
I realized it shows strength to ask for help.
I realized new therapies could work for me.
I realized a new purpose, helping other warriors.
And now I know anything is possible.
Learn more at woundedwarriorproject.org/together.
Welcome to Gold Shields. Join NYPD veterans Tom Smith and Dan Murphy. With over 50 years of combined experience chasing drug lords, dismantling cartels, and hunting terrorists. Now they pull back the curtain, sharing raw, unfiltered stories from the front lines and the heroes who stood beside them. No topics off limits. This is real. This is true crime. This is Gold Shields.
Welcome back to Gold Shields. This is Dan Murphy along with my partner in crime, Tom Smith. How are you today, buddy?
Dude, it's opening day at Yankee Stadium.
Does it get any better?
No, man, and the Sweet 16 starts tonight. This is a good day.
You're in
And we
sports.
got our guest, so
You're in sports heaven. Yeah.
this is a good day. This
Yeah,
is a good day.
we have an amazing guest, and we're so honored to have him. And we'll get to him in a second. But first, as we always do, let's talk about some of our friends.
Yeah, first and foremost, Copline, 1-800-267-5463. Our numbers with suicides and hurt ourselves and attempted suicides are way too high. Please, if you're out there and you need to talk to someone, even if it's a brief conversation, just to get over a little hump you're going through for the day, please reach out to Copline. You can reach them at copline.org and 1-800-267-5463. The phone's going to get answered by a retired cop who has been trained, who's been through what you're going through. So it's not just a stranger. So please make that phone call if you need to. It's really important to all of us that everyone is safe and healthy, both mentally and physically. So please do that. One more time, 1-800-267-5463. Another great, part of our show, Wounded Warrior Project. We just hooked up with them. We're really proud of what we're going to be doing with them, and we got more to come with them, more information that we're going to share. And we have a insane, incredible guest coming up as part of the Wounded Warrior Project in the next couple of weeks that we're certainly not going to talk about right now. But let's get to business, Dan. This is our third show on the attack in Benghazi. And some people are going to go, well, why are you doing 3 shows? And it's simple, because the first 2 with Tig and Sarah Adams, you had 2 different perspectives, 2 different thoughts, 2 different views of what happened. And today we are honored to have a third view with Dave Boon Benton, which, another hero. He's going to roll his eyes and probably be mad at us for saying that, but we're going to say it anyway. Who went through everything that day on September 11th. And he's here with us to share this story and talk about a few other things that are going on in the world today. So Boone, it is a absolute privilege and honor to have you here, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
This event that took place that you'll never forget, obviously, and anybody who's a true American should not forget, is one that should be in the media more frequently. People need to know the level of failure on the government's part in many ways. They need to understand that people like yourself, who put yourself in harm's way overseas on behalf of the United States of America, need better than what happened that day. Tell us a little bit about how you got to be there. I understand you were in the U.S. Marines, as my dad was for 8 years, and I thank you for your service. But what brought you to that point that you're part of that team, that SRG group?
So I was actually a Marine a long time ago. I also had a short career in law enforcement as well. And then I ended up overseas, and that's when I got involved with the CIA with their global response staff. So I deployed to many different places under the QRS program, and I just happened to be in Libya many years later under that same program.
Now, when you got there, Boone, what was the level like? Now we know what was going on in Libya at the time. I mean, it was a bad spot. It was a hotbed for terrorism and a focal point in the intel community. What was like the days leading up to that, or months, however you want to, wherever you want to go back to? How was the temperature there with attacks and the probability of something really bad on the horizon happening?
So before I got there, um, it was already starting to become more of a hotbed, more high risk. The revolution just ended. There was a lot of infighting between the militias. I didn't get there until about July, but before I got there, the threat started to increase. From the time I got there, from July until September, it increased dramatically.
So that's you're on the ground, you're getting intel, you're embedded with the CIA, you're protecting them, and you're getting this intel. And what, if anything, is happening with requests for more security or more support where you are?
So, and this is some people get confused with it. So, just to be clear, GRS is the CIA. We're not embedded with them. We are a unit within the CIA. Now, when it comes to security, we had no issues on our end. The State Department had issues with security and security requests. They were deficient in their security posture. The CIA, which was separate, actually didn't have a deficiency with their security apparatus.
So that day, we're gonna hit it. I mean, this is why a lot of people are gonna want to hear this. On that morning, probably starts off as any other morning that you've been involved in there, and then when and how does the entire your life, the lives of others, just dramatically change? And just walk us through that day and how it started, and just the progression of the attack.
Yeah, so the baseline for us in that environment is vastly different. We we were asked by the FBI, we were being interviewed after the fact, so was there anything abnormal about that day? We're like, dude, it's Libya. Every day's abnormal. It's like the baseline's just different. So, um, obviously there's attacks all through the city, but that day there was nothing specific that stood out. Obviously, we had surveillance on the compound that day over at the State Department compound, but that wasn't unusual. That was happening for several weeks at that point. It was very busy. We had teams out running all over because State Department was understaffed. We were supporting State Department and helping them out. Not that we had any official mandate to do that. We absolutely didn't. We were just giving them a hand just because they were short. We understood the city much better than they did. So just normal day, as normal as it can be in Libya. Uh, and then, we just ran operations all day. Myself and Tonto, we were on QRFs. So we were standing by if there was any incidents for the city. If they needed help, obviously, we would be called and we would support the other teams. And we did that, well into the night where, it was probably a little after 9:30-ish where the last team was like, "Hey, we're on our way in." Everything started to settle down. Um, so we're about to pack up for the night, just waiting for that last team to come in. We did have one team that was gonna be out for an extended period. That was Oz. He was on a special assignment. And then around 9:40-ish, and keep in mind, it's been a long time now, so my times might be slightly off. Around 9:41, 9:42, 9:45, somewhere around there, we got the call over the radio. Hey, we need all teams to come to the office right now. Myself and Tonto just kind of looked at each other, kind of blew it off, like, sure, we're on our way. And we leisurely started to get up and walk to the office. Then the team leader came over the radio again, and we sensed the urgency in his voice. He's like, "Hey, I need all teams over here right now." That's when we knew, hey, something's wrong. We need to go. So we grabbed ourselves, started to run out the door. So when we ran out the door, we could hear commotion in the distance coming from the state compound. So we knew something was definitely up. That's when we ran over to the team room. And that's when we got the brief. Hey, the conflict's under attack.
Okay, so you get the brief, and is that from CIA station chief or from your team lead?
No, it's from the GRS team leader. Although the COB was present in the room, but that wouldn't be his position to brief us.
So you get this brief, you're aware what's going on. I think many of our listeners and viewers have seen the movie 13 Hours and were aware of how it was depicted. Tell us what happened next.
Well, there's a lot that goes on. If you just watch the movie, you're getting a small portion of the totality of the circumstances. So it's a good representation, but a lot goes on in that small time frame, which isn't in the movie. So obviously, we get the brief, we start gearing up to go. Within 5 minutes, we're briefed. We have a somewhat good understanding of what's going on, and we're actually in the vehicles and we are ready to go in less than 5 minutes.
And you start heading over to the compound where Chris Stevens is.
No, we don't. So this is where all the controversy comes in. So we're in the running vehicles and we're waiting to go. So we're getting pushback from the chief of base and our team leader. And a lot of this is in hindsight. So a lot of what I know now, we didn't know during that time. So we're in the vehicles, we're ready to go. We're frustrated. State's calling on the radio saying they need us to come. A few of us are having dialogue with the team leader and the COB, and I'm sure Tig has given his events of what was said. Tonto had a run in. So there's a lot of back and forth with, hey, why aren't we gone yet? Finally, State Department comes to the radio and says, hey, if you guys don't get here right now, we're all going to die. And that's when collectively we just said, hey, screw it. Told our team leader, get in a vehicle. We're leaving with or without you. And that's when he hopped in the vehicle and we took off.
So you make your way over to the compound, which for reasons of, I don't know, semantics maybe, didn't have the level of security a typical diplomatic outpost. Well, it's diplomatic outpost versus an embassy security, correct? Different level?
Yes, it's so a lot of that is semantics, like you said, and a lot of it's after the fact, kind of CYA. So it wasn't an official embassy. So by law, it doesn't rate certain security measures. Although the DSS team that was there months prior actually had an SST, which reinforces security. That was downgraded and those guys left. They made requests for another SST or for enhanced security. All those requests were denied. I don't know exactly. Again, it's been a while, but I think it was over 114 requests for security, and that's all documented. So the listeners could look that up and actually find the exact number. But yes, State Department's requests for enhanced security were continuously denied, although there were several threats to include a bomb that actually took part of their wall down prior to this happening.
Yeah, before I go on my next question there, just like a commentary for a minute so everyone understands this. Imagine me and you in the NYPD, like we were forever, and we're working in the 30 precinct, and the 33 is under attack and going crazy, and we're getting told by our CO, no, don't go over 155 Street. I mean, could you imagine that? And now raise it to an epic level, not just a street fight or whatever, raise it to a warlike footing. And these guys who are, I mean, you're full of just ready to go and getting told, no, that's like putting a 747 in reverse on a runway. I mean, that is, again, I'm going to go on forever if I don't stop. So, it's just crazy to think that.
So just to be clear, though, like I said, in hindsight, totality of circumstances, we figured out what's actually going on. But at that moment, we didn't understand why we were being held up. We actually thought that they're trying to coordinate with Feb 17 to assist us for a QRF, which we didn't want because we didn't trust them anyway. But we didn't understand what was actually happening. If we would have known then, what we know now, we'd have just left immediately.
So Feb 17 in the movie is depicted, which is the local militia, so to speak, and has an arrangement with the U.S. government for security over there and is supposed to be working with you guys, has a reputation in the movie as being inept and untrustworthy. Is that correct?
That is correct. So Feb 17 was commanded by Fatih Bukatif, who was, the commander of a local militia. Part of that militia was tasked with providing security for the embassy through a contract. Armed QRF, only part of it, not all of February 17th. And then there is a unarmed security force, a contract guard force called Blue Mountain Group, who handled the ECP, the entrance and physical screening, unarmed though, of the embassy.
Unarmed in Benghazi. I mean,
Right.
I didn't really think anyone was unarmed.
yeah, they're the only people unarmed in the city. Congratulations. Yeah. Great job.
February 17 was the armed contract
Right.
for the
Yeah.
embassy.
You can't make it up. You can't make it up.
No. So you're on your way. You're full of adrenaline now. Now the juices are going. Now everything's getting kind of ramped up on you guys. When you get there, is it worse than you thought, or what you thought?
Well, we didn't get there right away. We took a route that led us to one of the roads that leads to the embassy. The embassy, I call it an embassy. It's not an embassy, but the special mission compound. The special mission compound was in the middle of a neighborhood, a nice neighborhood, with huge villas to the left, to the right, and in front of it. So we couldn't just drive to it without going through these areas. So we actually ended up driving to one of the roads that leads to the front of the special mission compound, which at that time had a technical vehicle and a small little team in front of it. And that's where we stopped and started to interact with them. We had no idea who they were. We still kind of don't know who they were. We kind of have an idea. So we coordinated with them. They told us, hey, you can't go down that road. And we're like, why not? It's like, well, you need permission to go down that road. And we're like, well, from who? So we start talking to them saying, hey, we're going down this road. So as all that's happening, I decided, hey, we're wasting too much time here. We need to see what's going on. So I tell Tonto and the rest of the team, I'm going to hop this wall. I'm going to go see if I can find some high ground. We're going to start heading towards the compound. Tonto comes with me. As we're going, one of the guys who are there, one of the local guys there, says, hey, I'm going to send two of my guys. So he attaches two of his guys with Tonto and I. Before we leave, rounds start coming down that road towards us. That's when Tig actually grabs the 40 mic and puts some rounds down the road, silencing whatever that firing position was. After that, myself and Tonto hop the wall, and we start clearing structures that are between us and the special mission compound to try to get to the back gate.
So it wasn't as quick an entry as might be depicted in the, well, it didn't. The movie itself does show a bit of stuff that you went through before getting in. So you're clearing buildings so that way you know that you can get to where you need without your back being exposed, and making sure that there's no one's going to rain down on you with terror. But you eventually get your way to the special mission compound. Tell us about that.
We do. We actually split, myself and Tonto, and then these two unknowns that are with us. And then the rest of the team actually went down the main road that we stopped on foot with the armored vehicle behind them. They actually got to the front gate before myself and Tonto got to the back gate. So once we get to the back gate, we coordinate over the radio. Tig and the other guy said, hey, we're making entry into the compound. They make entry into the compound from the front. Myself and Tonto are trying to get into the back. We run into some issues negotiating the back gate. We finally get into the back gate, communicate with the other team, and then we link up in the middle with Tig.
Now, while you're there, well, either before or during the ride there or when you get there, are you aware that like the ambassador's there and a team is there? And like what when you're going there, what are you looking to do? Like what was your goal to get there? To get them just extracted from the building, get them out of there, or what was it?
So we were very flexible. We were going to use, initiative-based tactics based off of what we encountered, what we got. Ideally, we would get there and reinforce or support the diplomatic security guys who ideally would have been securing the ambassador and then attempting to break contact to evacuate him. So kind of like a counter assault team, if we could get there, put fire on the enemy, distract the enemy, and they could evacuate, that would have been ideal. But that wasn't the case once we got there. We were just too late.
So you get there, describe if you can what you see, what you encountered.
Chaos. Uh, mm, um, Several fires. The Feb 17 had a villa to the left of the ECP as you're looking at it. That was fully engulfed in flames. The villa where the ambassador actually resided, his residence, was also engulfed in flames. There are about 80 people, and we confirmed this through CCTV, running around. Some are screaming, some are just confused, and that's pretty much the situation. So quickly, we started clearing structures, looking for Americans, trying to consolidate Americans, and communicating with State Department to consolidate everyone.
Yeah, they get to a point where is it the smoke, the fire, all that, it just becomes too much to stay there, and it's time to you don't have a choice. You just have to get out and back out of there. Is that what kind of drew you guys to say, okay, step two is just getting out of here, so we're all okay?
No, so there's several things happening simultaneously, and there's multiple buildings that have to be cleared and secured simultaneously. Again, we weren't a big team, but we split our forces so we could cover more ground and be a force multiplier. So we actually cleared several buildings looking for enemy fighters. To clear the structure of any enemy fighters, we linked up with several of the DSS guys. We secured the Tactical Operations Center, the top as well. And then myself, um, Tig, went back to the villa where other GRS members and state members were already there searching for the ambassador. I went in, couldn't go too far, couldn't stay very long. Tig and Roan went in very deep several times looking for the ambassador. They found Sean Smith, deceased, unfortunately. They could not find the ambassador. That's when we came out consolidated. As we were consolidating, saying, hey, we've been here too long. We need to get back to the Annex because the Annex is undefended. That's when we received fire from the back gate.
Looking for powerful defense without the mess? Meet Impact, a revolutionary line of chemical irritants designed for law enforcement, military, and personal protection. With no blowback, no cross-contamination, and easy cleanup, Carry Impact delivers unmatched stopping power without the hassle. Whether you're in the field or on the street, safety should never be compromised. Protect yourself with the next generation of defense. Carry Impact, stopping power, redefined. Have you ever wished you could go back in time and see the events that shape the true crime cases that fascinate you? With newspapers.com, it's like having a time machine to the past. Dive into more than 1 billion newspaper pages from 1690 to 2025 and relive the headlines that shocked entire towns. Explore newspapers from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and beyond with a simple search. Read the breaking news as it happened, crime scene reports, witness testimonies, and courtroom drama. Explore forgotten clues and see how the media shaped the narrative of infamous cases. But it's not just the major stories. Newspapers.com lets you dig into local mysteries, missing persons reports, and the small-town scandals that history forgot. It's the closest you can get to being there when it all unfolded. So, If you're ready to dig deeper into the crimes that keep you up at night, start your journey today at newspapers.com. Use the code GOLDSHIELDS for an exclusive 20% discount on your subscription.
So you get this fire from the back gate. Well, first of all, the chaos as depicted in the movie, you don't know who's who. There are so-called good guys, lots of bad guys, and lots of people who are riding the fence, right?
Yeah, you don't know who's who, and most of them don't speak English. So in a situation like that, we go off of temperament and intent, violence of action. You can't go off displaying of weapons because everyone has a weapon, but it doesn't mean they're bad. So we're more looking for temperament, intent, violence of action. That's what we're looking for.
Now, who inevitably makes that call to say, "All right, we can't do any more here because of everything that's going on. Let's get back to the annex."
So the interesting thing about GRS is that we're all very experienced, accomplished leaders in a small unit environment. So we might have, well, we do have a team leader and assistant team leader. Our assistant team leader was Tyrone Woods. But throughout the night, we will take charge when it needs to be done. So just because you're the team leader or the ATL doesn't mean you're in charge at that moment. And we just bounce that back and forth. So whoever comes up with the rational idea of, hey, we're losing the initiative or we need to do this or, this needs to happen. If it makes sense, then we just all follow. If you're a good leader, you can be a good follower. And in that group, everyone's a leader. So we decided, hey, been too long. Annex is undefended. We need to consolidate and remove ourselves from this situation here and find a more tactically sound position to be in.
What was the condition of the state guys, the DSS guys, when you got there and when you left with them? They were obviously beaten back by the forces. I mean, were they coherent? Were they still in the fight with you? Were they injured?
So understandably, they were taken aback at that time. When we got back to the annex, they actually rebounded very quickly, and supported us and were on the roofs with us. But initially, yes, they were slightly taken aback. Um, some of them physically who were actually in the burning, like Scott, who was actually in the burning building with the ambassador, suffer from smoke inhalation and exhaustion. And physically, not only mentally, he was pretty beat up at that time. But they quickly rebounded once we removed ourselves from the special mission comp.
You try to, you try to wrap your head around this, and you can. I mean, us looking at it from 30,000 feet, and you being on the show and going through it, it's so difficult to just imagine the chaos, and that's a perfect word that you used, Boone, in what's going on because, and thankfully, you guys are just so highly trained to look at it as what it is. And your description of the team concept is so important with everyone just going like you said, bouncing it off each other. And if it makes sense, that's what we're doing. No one had to just rise and go, hey, this is what we're doing. Everyone was kind of on the same page, which is how teams are successful when you have that. And leadership to be a good follower is, I think, the the title of this show. That was so I just had to say that because you it just so pinpointed what all this is about. Uh, so your understanding the annex is wide open, to what might happen. You guys get back there. Now, round two pretty much starts of the night, right? When you get back there.
Well, we actually had round two at the special mission compound before we left. So we were actually involved in two engagements. Well, if you include, TIG Franklin 40 Mike Mikes, and it would be three at the special mission compound. So we dealt with the first engagement and we told state, hey, you need to evacuate, go left, don't go right. We came from the left. It's secure. It's as secure as it can be. And then they took off. We dealt with that engagement. We encountered a third engagement that we dealt with Then we consolidated and we prepared to evacuate. As that was going on, obviously, state ran into a ambush. They were ambushed. Thankfully, they were able to escape that ambush, and they safely made it back to the annex. Shortly after that, we left, did a quick SDR to make sure that we weren't followed back, although it didn't matter because they knew where we were anyway. But after we made sure that we were clean, we actually went back to the annex as well.
So that's depicted pretty vividly in the movie, the ambush that the state guys drove into when making a wrong turn, which in that moment anybody could understand. I mean, those guys were enormous stress they had been under, and on top of it, they lost the ambassador on their watch, and not really their fault. They're not extra human. They're people, but by the same token, you've got to understand the stress that that would be. That is your mission, right? I mean, these guys, I'm sure, took it to heart. Um, so you get back to the compound, you get back to the annex. What happens there?
Yeah, just to go back real quick. So the DSS guys don't get enough credit, and they get put down a lot. I think that's very unfair. Um, Under the circumstances, they were caught off guard, and they didn't understand what's going on either. We should have recognized that Scott wasn't in the condition to drive. We should have made a suggestion, hey, have someone else drive. So those guys actually did very well that night under the circumstances, and I don't think that they get enough credit for that.
And that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that out because, if you watch the movie, you don't have anything but respect for them. And
Absolutely.
the situation they're in is so extra human, it's so odd. It's not something that you have any opportunity to stand back and criticize. I'm just,
No, they're right with that situation. Absolutely. As soon as we got back, just because we actually trained beforehand, we actually trained a lot. We trained the base personnel as well, but we actually trained for contingency plans. Hey, what if? What if the annex is hit? What do we do? So when we get back, we knew exactly what we needed to do, and we had pre-assigned positions that we would take up to defend the annex. So once we got back, we took care of a few things and then immediately went to our defensive positions, just in anticipation of an attack. Now, we had no indication that another attack was coming. Again, just contingency planning just to heighten our posture. And that's what we did.
How long does it take before that whole starts? You get there, like you said, you do some housekeeping, get stuff in order, get to where you need to get to. How long before that attack starts?
So if you would have asked me that 2 years ago, I'd give you an exact time.
What was the approximate time?
I believe it was about an hour. I think it was like right after midnight, something like that. But don't quote me on that. But I think it was about 45 minutes to an hour to where a technical vehicle, a Hilux with a heavy machine gun mounted to the back, with like 10 taken off of it, which is normal for Libya, goes, goes flying by our road. And again, we're in a nice residential neighborhood. And it flies by the road that leads to our main gate. And it goes by maybe 25 yards, slams the brakes on, does a U-turn, and comes back. So it comes back and it stops in a parking lot that what appeared to be used to be an old gas station, but there was also a house on it with a small family. So they stopped in that parking lot, and then another vehicle shows up, another vehicle shows up, and another vehicle shows up. And we see this group of fighters amassing in this little parking lot. And we got on the radio and we asked just for clarification because we don't want any blue on blue. So we're trying to prevent a bad situation where we asked the comm guys and basically the team leader in the COB inside of Building 3, which is our tactical operations center. Hey, has Fawzi Bukati for February 17th sent any fighters to reinforce our position? And they tell us, we don't know. And we tell them, hey, there's a group amassing out here. See if you can deconflict, see if these guys are friendly or not. So we never got a response. We start to see them dismount, form up into small fire teams, and then start making their way to the annex. Now, there's probably only about 125 yards, maybe 150 from us to where this parking lot is. So under night vision, we see them approaching our position.
So that moment you see them approaching, you haven't got a clear green light to take action because you don't know who they are. That's got to be confusing and it's got to be nerve wracking.
It is, but we don't really need permission to defend ourselves from anyone like that. The permission for self defense is given prior to us being deployed there, if that makes sense. So at any time, we have the legal authority to defend ourselves. Um, it gets a little um, gray when it comes to defending a third party, like State Department personnel, although it shouldn't be, or personnel that aren't employed by the CIA. But as far as it comes to like our personal safety, we don't need permission to defend ourselves.
So once they, I mean, they're approaching, you said about 150 yards. So you're watching this happen. Does it all just hell break loose in one moment and it's just on, or is it kind of trickled and then becomes what it became? Is it just small arms fired first or immediate RPGs? What was thrown at you to start that battle?
So this was a little surreal, and a lot of people don't understand our actions. But because the situation was so benign, we didn't just open up on them. So we got on the radio and we tell them, hey, we have small fire teams aggressively moving towards our location. Is this friend or is this foe? And again, we don't know, but we get the caveat. If they fire on you, fire back on them. Thanks, genius. Wish we needed that.
I only hope they consulted an attorney for that sage advice.
Right.
Captain Obvious.
Yeah, not now that we were asking, we're just trying to deconflict so there's no blue on blue. Um, so at some point they stop, and we have these bright lights that are intentionally designed to blind them, so they can't see our fighting positions. And again, we're behind these lights on night vision, so we can clearly see them. They're searching for where they think we are. They're pointing weapons at our positions, and a lot of people are like, "Well, why don't you just shoot them?" Again, because we don't know who they are. We don't know if it's blue on blue or not. And there's also a house with a family right behind them. So now our backstop isn't clear, or at least part of it. A certain angle is not. Well, that one angle to my far right and Tanta's far right, where that family is, a guy points an RPG at our position and fires the RPG, and then another guy shoots with small arms fire. So that's what causes the initial firefight.
Okay, so now you're engaged, now it's on. And you've got how many combatants out there making their way towards? Dozens?
So as they were moving up, Tonto started to initiate with an IR laser, marking each individual. And then we would over the radio, hey, do you have this one? Yeah, I got this one. Hey, I have three over here. Do you guys see them? Because again, we're all separated in different positions. Some of us have line of sight, and then some of us can't see each other. So we marked about 20 guys initially who moved up.
And how many of you are on the roof?
So total GRS is two per fighting position. So there's a total of six of us. Now we did have DSS up there with us, so they supported us. But us as a GRS unit, there was two per fighting position.
Damn. Two. Wow. Uh, so I have so many questions. My God. So this battle started, the RPG, the small arms, then like Dan just said, then it's on. Then it's just as they're advancing, trying to get them obviously before they get to you. Uh, and that just firefight that's going on is just as intense as you've ever horribly thought of, in your military career.
Yeah, it was actually very intense, but it was very quick as well. I mean, it lasted maybe 5 to 10 minutes initially.
So what happens after that first initial 5 to 10 minute firefight? Do they proceed, pull back?
So obviously we had the advantage on that first firefight. So after we dealt with that one, another wave approached us. And that wasn't immediate. There's another lull, again, I don't know, maybe an hour ish, and then we had a bigger gathering with a more intensified attack, if you will. Almost like the first one was almost like a probe, and they're attempting to shoot the lights out, find our positions, almost like a stiff jab.
So now the big question, that everyone I know that's listening to this, that knows this story, that knows what's happening, I'm going to ask. At what point do you guys go, holy crap, we need help? We need help here. We're not going to make it. When does that mess, and let's just leave it there for now, and then we'll talk about it more. When does that all start?
So that actually wasn't a realization until almost morning. So again, just contingency planning. We like to get ahead of things. Um, we're extremely small. We have a very specialized mission, and we're not looking to get into gunfights and things like that. It's not how we're set up. Um, it's not how we like to do business. So as soon as we got back, and we got attacked the first time, one of the questions we asked was, "Hey, where's the Mu? And where's SF? Again, coming from those backgrounds, we know those capabilities. We used to be on those teams, so we want to know where the Marines were and if they were en route, and we want to know if the Special Mission Unit from North Carolina was on their way. So those are just things we're foreseeing that we might need. So we requested those. A medevac was also requested as well, which was denied by our team leader. Again, we didn't know that in real time. These are things we found out after the fact. So we asked for reinforcements right off the bat, not realizing how much we would really need them as the night went on. It was right after the mortars came in later that night, right before morning. It's about 5:17, 5:20, um, where it's like, hey, we really need a lot of help. If we have another large force that shows up, we're not going to be able to defend the annex. We're going to have to go to ground, and things are going to get very messy. So it was later on that night where we realized the severity of the situation we were in. Although we requested help early on just to get ahead of anything, even though we didn't know what the night was going to, unfold into, if that makes sense.
So while this is going on, the CIA office, all the members of the agency that are there, are in their protocol for destruction and preparing to evacuate. Is that correct?
No,
No?
no, again, a lot of things go on during that night. Some I wasn't privy to at the time. Like you talked about evacuation. I didn't know we were evacuating until the sun came up and I was the last guy on the roof. I had no idea. Although the word to evacuate was given to other people within the agency well before that. So there was a breakdown in communication. Also, the COB had no intentions of evacuating. Although Team Tripoli, who was sent down to reinforce us, came down with the intent that we were going to evacuate. So there was a lot of miscommunication going on, or no communication going on. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things were going on at the time.
Well, a break in the crazy action. Did you actually just look around the roof and be like, why am I the only one here? I need to leave right now.
Didn't get the text. Yeah.
No, the the thing with my position on the roof, and this came up when our guys on building 3 were actually down. Um, my position was the best observation position and position to fire from to keep the attackers at bay. I had the best fields of fire and the best fields of observation from where the initial attacks were coming, where their staging area was. So it didn't make sense for me to move from my position until the very last minute. And that's why I was the last one up there.
So the film depicts a bus arriving at one point, which it is determined has a very large ordnance in that. What does that feel like to see the bus show up and to get the opinion that they're trying to blow the whole place to smithereens?
So they did try to breach one of our gates several times. The movie uses a bus. I don't remember it being a bus. They did have a vehicle, but I don't remember a bus ever being there. But they did try to breach that one gate at least twice.
So this goes on again. All you were in a fierce battle with a couple of breaks here and there, like you said, for the entire night into the morning. Do you guys at some point, and we asked Tig this too, and do you just kind of look at each other and go, "No one's coming. This is ours. Like we started it. We have to finish this because no one's coming." And what, Boone, is that feeling like?
So that's kind of our mentality, straight out the gate. Just because of what we do and how we do it, like to us, a 6-man team is huge. We usually operate singleton, 2 guys. So 6 dudes is a lot. And then when Team Tripoli showed up with 6 more guys, like that's very encouraging. But what was discouraging was because of our backgrounds, we knew that, hey, we can get close air support. Most of us has gone through JTAC training. We can call for fire. We have the radios, we have the skills, we have the capability. We know what a Ranger battalion can do. We know what a Marine Maritime Response Force can do. We know what the Special Mission Unit from North Carolina can do. We know what a SIF can do from Europe. And we expected these things to show up just because of the situation we're in, just because we still had an ambassador that we couldn't account for. So initially, we thought all those assets were coming. Like, why wouldn't they? So initially, we were good. We were, I hate to say it, but like high on the hog, right? Like we had that motivation that, hey, it's just a matter of time and we won't be alone. But yeah, as the night went on, we were starting to realize, like, hey, nobody's coming, guys. And we really realized that when Team Tripoli showed up. We were glad that Team Tripoli showed up. But what we were told was, hey, there's a squadron coming. Squadron being Special Mission Unit, a squadron of Delta Force operators are en route to help you out. Whether it was Delta, whether it was the 10th Group Commanders and Extremist Force, whether it was a bunch of them, it doesn't matter. Americans were coming to help us out. So we're like, cool. We were pretty motivated about that. Team Tripoli shows up, and we were glad to see our brothers. But as they were coming through the gate, I was like, I know that guy. I know that guy. I know that guy. I'm not seeing strangers yet, which is still cool because there are guys. We know what they're capable of. They're here to help. I saw 2 dudes that I couldn't identify. Those were the 2 JSOC guys. And then I'm looking, where's the rest of them? It was just them. That's when we started to realize, hey, no one else is coming.
That's a harsh realization. And then you guys at some point pull out. But when did you learn about the ambassador's death? Was it after you left the annex, or when you were still there?
So this is different for everybody. Again, me being the last guy on the roof, I was probably the last to know. I didn't know until I was in the car with the COB and we were on our way to the airport. Because as we were leaving, I figured out, hey, we're evacuating, we're going to the airport. So I asked him, like, hey, did we ever find the ambassador? And he says, yes, the ambassador is dead. That's when I first found out. Now, other people found out beforehand.
Wow. And Glenn Doherty and Tyrone Woods get killed during the battle on the Annex. And you have them with you when you're getting out of there?
Yes, they were killed around 512 from the mortars that I personally witnessed, yes. Before we left, yes, we had Sean Smith, Glenn Doherty and Tyrone Woods with us. Absolutely. And then once we got to the airport, we received Chris Stevens.
So now you're ultimately evacuated out, and is it correct it was not an American aircraft? It was not American military. It was not even American Airlines. Is that correct?
That is correct. So as we left, um, we get to the airport. Once we get to the airport, we receive Ambassador Stevens' body. There is a commercial aircraft that one of our coworkers within the agency arranged in the movie. It's Glenn Doherty. That was not correct. Glenn's character in the movie is a combination of like three people rolled into one. So there was a private aircraft there that we loaded all the wounded and all the people from the State Department and then the Annex personnel were loaded on that bird and they flew off. Team Benghazi, Team Tripoli stayed until with the remains of our fallen, stayed until a Libyan C-130 showed up, and we loaded up on that bird and flew back to Tripoli.
So you go from Benghazi with everyone to Tripoli. Okay. Now now you're in Tripoli. Now when do all of you start to hear the political nonsense that is starting to filter out about, A, it wasn't that big of a deal. You guys are all right, and all the other crap that happened with videos and, whatever else popped up. When does that start to kind of filter to you guys?
Not in Tripoli. So in Tripoli, we quickly kind of settled in, got some food, took some showers, got some rest. Then we were woken up and told, hey, you guys are going to Germany. So they got rid of us pretty quickly. Although some of us wanted to stay, they're like, we need to get you guys out of here. So we ended up going to Germany, and we were sequestered in Germany for about a week. It was during that week where we started to get the feeling that something wasn't right. Again, we have no communication with anyone. We're not allowed to go home, and we have limited contact with anyone. So we don't know what's going on. We don't know that the story's being spun. We have no idea. We probably didn't really understand it until we got back to the United States and were debriefed by the agency, and then we went home. Then we started seeing news and things like that. But even then, we didn't understand the totality of what was actually being put out there.
While you were gone, so to speak, Susan Rice, as you know, history will reflect the big lie that was pushed around to all the Sunday morning shows. Um, a reprehensible lie on behalf of the president, the administration, and one that I hope is never repeated by anybody in her position again. But you eventually learn that, and that's got to hit you hard, doesn't it?
So, for me personally, I didn't understand the totality of circumstances for a while. Um, I knew that there was misinformation being put out. I didn't understand why. Um, so a lot of us went straight back to work. And I stayed with the agency till 2016. I didn't leave. But I went back to work. So I'm in another country doing what I do, and things are starting to get very weird. So even like right off the bat, the Benghazi conspiracies didn't hit me, but they started to affect me. And they started to affect me at work. So slowly, I started to realize what was going. Now, I think that was different for each one of the guys on the team, depending on what they were doing and where they were at that time. But I'm just not one of those guys who pay attention to the news. So a lot of those things I just wasn't aware of, although I heard grumblings here and there. And then obviously the other guys would bring things up, say, hey, did you hear about this? Hey, did you, see what they're trying to do? Did you see that they're saying this is what happened instead of what really happened? So it kind of took maybe a month for me to really see what was going on. I think that was a lot quicker for the other guys. So.
So if you don't mind, Boone, and please tell me if I'm going too far. How did it affect you? Like you said, it affected you. What was going on with you?
So, at work, um, things are being done or not reported or misreported, or things, were how can I put this? Things are being misrepresented at work.
So, since this all has happened, and probably since you left the agency some 9 years ago, you have collaborated with a good friend of yours
Yes.
on some very, very important work. And we've had the pleasure and the honor of speaking with her as well. And that very important work includes doing what our federal government should have done and hadn't done.
Right.
Right. Identify and track down and hopefully one day charge and hold accountable those responsible for the killing of our ambassador, the killing of other personnel, the storming of our embassy, and the general terrorist actions that took place that day. Is that correct?
Exactly. And those are the things at work that were not happening.
When it comes to the safety of law enforcement, first responders, and military personnel, every moment counts, especially in the dark. Streamlight provides the reliable, high-performance lighting solutions that these heroes trust in the most dangerous situations, whether it's a car stop, navigating dark alleyways, or exploring abandoned buildings. With Streamlight by their side, our heroes can tackle challenges with confidence, knowing they have the power of advanced lighting technology to guide them. From the first responders on the front lines to the law enforcement officers ensuring our safety, Streamlight is there to make every mission a little easier and much safer. Join us in supporting those who protect us. Visit streamlight.com to discover how you can be part of the team keeping our heroes safe. Because when they shine, we all shine.
Patriot is a premium whiskey hard seltzer. We've carefully crafted 4 flavors that not only taste exceptional, but can be enjoyed on any occasion, anytime. We're committed to giving back 5% of all profits to the core groups we call the backbone of America. We are proud to help those who serve our great country. This is America's Seltzer, the brand that stands for quality, community, and the American spirit.
It's amazing that the government who's responsible for finding out what happened didn't, and then people who actually went through it have to do it. You know, that's it's infuriating, and we've gone over this before. And I think one of the shows that we were most infuriated with was when Sarah was on, and we brought this up of how terrible it is. Uh, the one thing I want to ask you, and it's pretty new, and the timing of having you on is working out for information on the show, but the president just signed the executive order to open and release the Benghazi files, of everything that went on, what's written, what's not, what all that. How do you feel about that?
Dog and Pony Show. It's to yes, it's to appease the masses, to act like they're giving them something, but there's nothing to give them. The things that are classified about Benghazi will be names, little things that don't matter. There's no smoking gun in there. Everything in the House Select Committee reported and put out is what you're going to find in there. Like that's it. There's no details that are going to connect the dots where people are going to be like, oh, wow, that's what really happened. No, it's already been put out. And, not to plug us, but for more details on what really happened, read the House Select Committee and then read our book, Benghazi Know Thy Enemy. Everything is there. So it's a dog and pony show.
You're on this show to plug stuff, buddy. Just that's the point.
Hey, Sarah did it. You can do it. You guys did that.
We're gonna do that at the end again anyway, but please do that.
So, a couple of takeaways. I guess, rather than look to that report, what Americans should know is about the failures of our government that day to provide adequate security in one of the most dangerous places in the world for a U.S. ambassador, for other Americans, and the failure to respond properly once something heavy duty serious was happening, and ultimately the failure to hold, well, the next failure is the big lies. The lies about it all to cover up for political gain or for risk mitigation. And then the last one is the failure to hold anyone accountable, lest they bring the whole situation up again and it have to be played out in a courtroom or in some other forum. You know, when you get to the point where the United States government feels that not only is a U.S. ambassador, but other highly qualified, brave Americans serving overseas are expendable to help a politician's career, we're in bad shape, aren't we?
We definitely are. And what I tell people about Benghazi is you have to break it down into four separate subjects. So the agency had issues that we need to work out. Um, we were in a better position than most people that night, but there's things that we have to improve on and work out and make better. State Department um, probably had a bigger issue that night, and you have to look at the State Department failures separately from the agency failures. Then you have to look at the Department of Defense, and this stings a lot of people, former veterans, current active duty members get upset about this. All of us were former veterans, but that night, the military either didn't respond or couldn't respond. Neither one's good. Take your pick. So DOD has a huge issue that they have not fixed yet. And then lastly would be National Command Authority, the White House, and that's a whole separate issue. So all four of those elements had, pros and cons, mostly cons at night, but you have to look at it in four different categories and you kind of dissect what went wrong in Benghazi. It was just, the perfect storm when you take all four of those agencies into account. Now, there was nothing to cover up about Benghazi. There was no conspiracy until politically they decide to use it as a political tool and turn it into a conspiracy. And that's what's so confusing. There was nothing to hide.
And that's when things become a mess. When that arm gets involved in something they shouldn't, or they screw it up to the highest level of how they did it with this. And like you said, there was no reason. There was no reason to do it. It was what it was. It was an attack. You deal with it. Guys were there, and you battled and you won and whatever the case might be. But there was no reason to do what they did. You're 100% right. And it's so pinpoint into why it became a mess and didn't need to be.
And it brings up the old saying, it's not the crime, it's the cover up, right?
So, what are you doing today, bud? After all that, listen, you got a whole nother thing, threat management solutions and shootingclasses.com. Please tell us all about that.
So yes, I'm still actively teaching law-abiding Americans how to defend themselves with firearms and combatives. I'm also heavily involved in teaching law enforcement as well. Under threat management solutions, all our classes are on shootingclasses.com. But also, I'm partnered up with Sarah, and we're heavily involved in investigating a homeland plot, which is Al Qaeda targeting United States. It started with our Benghazi investigation, and what's interesting is the people who attacked us in Benghazi, Al Qaeda, is actually thriving right now in Afghanistan. And our Benghazi investigation led us to an Afghanistan and opened up, Pandora's box. So we're currently investigating the homeland plot. We have another investigation which will drop in April, which will also be very eye-opening, which is also evolves around ISKP, the Taliban, Al Qaeda, and Afghanistan, and that's all under Ascari Media Group.
Starry Media?
Ascari. ASKARI.
Oh, Ascari Media. Okay, ASKRI. We want to make sure we plug it properly. Give our audience an opportunity to get some truth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new segment, Overtime. We're thrilled to be here explaining this insane show we just had.
Yeah, trying to sum up this interview. First of all, we're so honored to have had Dave Boon Benton, who is a legit hero from a moment in history, in U.S. history, that Americans need to remember and not let ever happen again. Right, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, the circumstances of what happened, we've gone over before. And Dan, we just said it. There's a reason. I said in the beginning of the show, I'll say it again. There's a reason we had three different people talking about the same event. And some people ask why we have a Boone on. They don't know he's on yet, but people I had conversations with, and he just laid out why. We had John Teagan on, Tig, Sarah Adams. Now we had Boone, and three dramatically different views and experiences and outcomes of the same event. And that's why we did it, because like you just said, it's so important, this story.
Yep, it's so important, and it also is one that highlights. Let's not forget or minimize the incredible bravery and courage of the CIA former Tier 1 operators of the military who they hired to protect their staff overseas, and the DSS, Department of State security, who were way over their head in terms of how they were outnumbered, outgunned, and they were not a good position, and it was not their fault. They did an incredible job. We lost a U.S. ambassador that day in a situation that could have and should have been foreseen and prevented by our.
Yeah. I mean, foreseen for sure. I mean, there were so many signals, and we've gone over
Oh,
this
yeah,
and
yeah.
actually infuriated over this. The signals and the requests from Chris Stevens, about more security and, hey, we're going to get hit and this isn't going to be good, and over again, and ignored, and again, and Boone said it so perfectly. Why? For what reason did the mess that took place after this have to happen? There was no reason for it.
Political CYA. That's all it was. It was an attempt to do that, and ultimately it reflects really, really poorly, and history will show it reflects poorly on the leaders who made those decisions and failed to do what they should have done, and then lied to the American people. Lying to the American people is never good.
No,
It's never
it's
good,
never gonna work.
and it always comes out.
Right.
It just does. I mean, come on. There's so many people snooping everywhere. You're not going to get away with it.
No, absolutely not. And because here's why. Because just the way social media is and the way people just attach themselves to stories, and the drop of a hat having a congressional hearing where, everyone got to witness Hillary Clinton get up there and say, "What's it matter?
What difference does it make?
They're dead. What difference does it make?"
Unbelievable that she said that and still has the nerve to show her face in public. When she said that, my jaw hit the ground.
Or comment or commentary on anything going on in government, this is wrong, or that you have no right to say anything after a statement like that, or just what went on, what wasn't done, and what was peddled out there as complete nonsense. And here's the thing, and I think we said it, Dan, on the show we did with Sarah. Everyone knew it was crap. It wasn't even trying to convince people that, no, really, this is the truth. Everyone knew it was a lie.
There's a video somewhere in the world, and hundreds of armed jihadists are going to storm U.S. properties and compounds in Libya. That's it's going to happen. There was no indication that
IRO and all this other nonsense. It's just, again, when the government you said it, you cover stuff up, it's never going to work.
Susan Rice went out and embarrassed herself and the administration, and made themselves look like horrifically bad people. That on that Sunday morning shows, she hit all the shows and spread the same lie. Well, Boone was not just a great guest; he's a great guy, and I'd love to break bread with him at some point. I'm sure we will. But what he's doing now, the work that he and Sarah Adams are continuing to do, is so important, right?
Oh, what they're coming up with. Let me tell you just a quick story. I'm at work one day, and someone brought up a show that Sarah was on, and he's like, "Yeah, she scared the hell out of me." I'm like, "Yeah, because she knows. That's
That's
why she
right.
scared the hell out of you, because she's one of the most competent, smartest people out there tracking these groups and understanding what they do and how they do it. You know, she did it for a career with the agency. She knows what's going on. And believe it or not, everyone's going to hear the name Bin Laden again because there's a little runt running around running things again."
Yeah. Yeah. So she and Boone went to work identifying what our government wouldn't do. Disgusting, disgraceful. We just sit back and take that. There's no repercussions for killing Americans overseas, including an ambassador. Nobody gets arrested and prosecuted for that. Nobody gets investigated. That, look at the resources our government put to bear to put everybody who was anywhere near the Capitol on January 6th in prison. And yet we have all this information that she and Boone have gathered, identifying who they were, what they did those days. It was just, there's so much of it in their book. It's just sitting there.
Right. But here's the scary part, Dan. Everyone that they identified as being involved in the Benghazi attack is now in Afghanistan now, gathering the troops again and getting the jihadists all together again. Because why? Because nothing was happening. Because nothing happened to them. They're still out there. So what do? They just pick up where they left off, and that's the scary part. These people are hell bent on just getting us. And that's why, it's so important to listen to people like Boone and Sarah and others that are out there giving this information because it's all legit.
And his story about the locals, this whole concept of we're going to work with the locals. Well, there are some countries and some places in this world where the locals wear two hats out of necessity for their own survival. And I'm not putting them down. You do what you have to do to survive in this world, but we don't put our hopes on them. That's all there is to it. And we should never have decided that February 17th, in any way, shape, or form, that organization was going to be responsible for protecting Americans. It's not good enough.
No, absolutely. And it shouldn't be good enough. That's the whole thing. And hopefully, you know, there were some lessons learned, by people who put TAC plans together and operations together from Benghazi who are in power now, that this never happens again. And, just going back to the interview for a minute, the sheer chaos, like Boone said, that they had to deal with, and just rounds coming in the night, RPGs, mortars, all that, and to weather it and get out of there, unfortunately, without four of their comrades and two of their brothers. But it's a miracle they're all not dead.
Oh, yeah. If you watch that movie, which according to Boone, it's a movie. It has its depictions that are not, but it's pretty accurate in many ways as to what they were up against. The firepower, the sheer number, and they held their own and then some. And they walked off it, which is incredible testament to the kind of people that they are. And we owe a debt of thanks and we owe support. When you're serving our country anywhere, you need to know that your back is covered. You're putting your life on the line, you need to know your back is covered. What do you always say to your partners? We have the unspoken thing when you're working in the police department, whether it's a cop, detective, or whatever, which is I got your back, you got mine. Period.
That's it. And they rely on that. So when a fascia of the government goes, no, we're not sending any help, that's not good.
That's the ultimate betrayal.
Uh,
Amazing
it was
interview.
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, he's just, I would love to get Sarah and him back on together to talk about just up-to-date stuff, which, we may try to do, at a later date. We'll see where they're at with what they're doing because 'cause they're very busy and very tough to get a hold of. But maybe we'll give that a shot. But, an incredible human being, focused, trained, thank God, and everyone else who was there that day.
A great patriot, a very brave man as they all were, and, Chris Stevens, Sean, Tyrone, um, Glenn, Bob Dougherty, yeah. Uh, these are brave Americans who lost their life in service of our country overseas, and they should not be forgotten.
And we won't. We're not gonna on this show anyway. This is why not? you know, this is why at the end of each show, Dan, we ask for prayers for our law enforcement officers and our vets because of situations like this that they go through. You know, they need all the prayers in the world, them, their families, and everybody else. And that's why we do it at the end of each show. And we do it again right now. Please pray for them. These incredible human beings, men and women out there doing a thankless job under the most horrific, hellish circumstances, as we just heard from Boon. So please pray for them. And youtube.com/@goldshields and thegoldshieldsshow.com and every audio platform around. We're out there. Subscribe, follow us, ring the bell, comment, like, all the good stuff that goes with listening and following podcasts. Dan, great job. As always, incredible show.
Thank you. Great job too. If we're going to compliment each other, and I think we should. We're getting pretty good at this. You know, it's almost like we're developing a little bit of a niche or a capability in this area. Like I hope people start listening.
I know. One or two, please.
Yeah, somebody.
Come on.
Not just my mom, please.
Or the guy down on the corner who waves to us every day.
Yeah. I don't know. He's got mental health issues. That's why he listens, but he's a good guy.
Everyone, thanks for joining us on Overtime, and thanks for joining Gold Shields as always. Everyone stay safe, and we will see everybody soon.